Well,
Okay. Well,
except
it's
if Billy brings it
7:05.
to the floor, we can float it down.
Yeah. It's 7:05 and we've got our maps so we can look at them. So I was hoping maybe Steve could just give us an overview and then we could open it up for some questions and see if we can figure out what the hell's going on.
Okay.
Just to be sure you're going to record it, right?
It's already recorded.
It's
Already
recorded.
recorded. Okay.
Yeah, and Steve, just for what it's worth, do you have
Oh,
video?
video. Yeah, hold on. Sorry about that. Whoops.
Oh, there he
There
is.
he is. Use iPhones or webcam. No, I want to use this webcam.
Interesting.
What that's all about. Can you see me now?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so if you could put the map up, the one with the election districts. Yes, that one.
Thank you.
So the city redistricting committee passed or drew up new lines for 5 wards. And they're outside of Ward 1, there's maybe Ward 4, they're substantially different. But they drew them up and the Common Council adopted them. So they are, the lines that they drew will be the lines for the wards, for the members of Common Council for those new wards will run for election this coming year in 2023. At the same time, the county legislature's independent redistricting committee also passed new lines, but those are not taking effect until 2025. So we had to take the current legislative district lines and marry them against the new ward lines and then draw election districts that that are, within, only have, single jurisdiction or two, have the same jurisdictions for ward and county legislature. So these are the lines that drew up. And I was meeting with the woman from the county who creates these maps. And yesterday gave her these lines, and they suggested one change, and that was to the one line that is going down West Buffalo Street to the left of where you see 2-2. That line is being removed and going down the left-hand side of that square that has 2-2 down toward 6 Mile Creek. And that's the only change.
Wait, could you explain that again, please?
Well, you see the line on West Buffalo Street to the left of 2-2. It's the border between 1-4 and 1-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is being removed and instead is going to run south on South Meadow Street until
Okay.
it reaches 6 Mile Creek.
Gotcha.
And so 1-4 will stretch all the way down there.
So
And-
1-4 will remove that solid line
Right.
at Buffalo Street and take it all the way
Right.
down to
And the
the,
reason for that is that in 2 years, we are going to have to take that segment that's between North Fulton Street and South Meadow Street, which kind of like a mushroom cap to 2-2.
Mhm.
That whole section there is a unique district with a new county legislative lines that'll take effect in 2005. So rather than having to tell people they're going to vote in different places and all that, and we just made it. It'll still be, it'll probably be a 1-4 and a 1-5, but they'll both be in the same county ledge district, I believe. Or maybe actually, I think it's going to be in the second county ledge district. But anyhow, let's talk about now. So we have these lines, and the step that goes first is that they're going to draw the woman from the GPS, not GPS, but the section that does maps for the county. She's going to create a map of the city for us that has the new election district lines in it. Then we have to go into our voter registration database and transfer every voter into the correct legislative district based, or I'm sorry, the correct election district based on the new lines.
Mhm.
Once that is done, and we are going to try to get that done by early to mid-February, then we will have the election district lines. We will be able to, we will have all the voters moved into the correct election districts. We will be then able to calculate the number of Democrats within each election district, and then we will then be able to determine how many committee members will be allocated to each of those election districts. Now, state law says that we need to have a minimum of 2 county committee people in every election district.
Mhm.
And if you look at that District 4-3,
There's no,
currently that has 0 registered voters in it.
Ah,
But it will have 2 county committee members. And that is because those are all Cornell academic halls. And
so there are no residences really.
right, I think in the census there was a total of 14 people, I think, that registered for the census in that area, but nobody is registered to vote from it. So
That's okay. So that's legislative district. That's
it's in the
4-3.
it's in the current 3rd legislative district, but it's in the new 4th ward. Just
Oh,
like
I
that.
see. Okay.
And that 4-2, which is a sliver, is now currently in the 5th ward, but it's being moved to the 4th ward. But that little sliver is in the 2nd legislative district represented by Veronica Pilar. And so it's kind of unique in that it's in the 4th, it's from
4-1, yeah.
every ward, there's only 2 wards around it, but there's 3 legislative districts cutting right into that area. So that's a little tiny district. It does have registered voters, students, but
Yeah.
and so I doubt if that's going to have enough meet the criteria to get above 2 county committee members. I would think that possibly every other EV there shown will probably be able to get beyond 2 county legislative districts. And if we have an amendment to our bylaws, which is another subject, which is going to change the formula a little bit for a number of county committee members in a election district. And that would allow possibly a district like 3-2, which is probably going to have close to 1,400 registered voters, to have probably 6, maybe 7 committee members. That's if that amendment to the bylaws passes. Otherwise, it would max out at 4.
Mm.
And we kind of altered the little interesting note for that 3-2 and 3-1. East State Street used to be the border between Ward 1 and Ward 3. Now they're both within Ward 3. And so we decided to make the border between 3-1 and 3-2 6 Mile Creek. And then those people that live up on the East State Street and Giles Street at that, on the Bell Sherman side of 6 Mile Creek,
Mhm.
will go to Bell Sherman to vote.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
but it's and we're gonna have, I think, 8 polling places in the city. The plan is, if I understand, Titus Towers really wants us back, and as long as they agree to it formally, then we'll have Titus as another polling place.
Mhm.
But the Tabernacle Church in Fall Creek has indicated that it will not have an elevator, a new elevator, which is critical to it being ADA compliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the people that live in 2-1, which is most of Fall Creek, and 2-3, which is downtown on the flats, would vote at the town hall.
Uh-huh. So, and I'm still kind of struggling with this. The legislative districts are not determined by population.
They are determined by population, not by registered voters.
Right. But when you talk about, okay, this 4-3 here, having only 14 people in it or something.
Yeah. And the reason that's there is because if they had made that part of the new third ward,
Mhm.
then it would still be its own election district because we have to have, there was a law passed last year that said that if a campus has more than 300 enrolled voters living on it, we have to have a polling place on campus on election day that services all the students
Mhm.
on that campus. So
Mhm.
that even if that was in the new third ward,
Right.
we just couldn't aggregate it into 3-2 because I don't think I'd want to move everybody living in 3-2 to tell them they have to vote at Alice Cookhouse.
Okay, so that's really that 4-3 district is really there to give access to student voters. You know, there's a
Well, in this
there's a
case,
polling
it's
place
there because it's the only geographical piece of land that is both in the current third LD and the new fourth ward.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Can I say something?
Sure.
That, yeah, a large part of that was part of the third ward. And whoever takes over the fourth ward, we even gave up trying to, I mean, you can't get into the wards, into the dorms, they're locked. You can't petition. People at most live in those places for about 9 months.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get members for that from that district.
Right.
When it went, and it still is in the third ward. So it basically, in terms
Well,
of
wow. It'll be in the
what?
fourth ward. It'll be in the fourth ward.
Yeah, but it's almost
election.
it's like a civic dead zone.
Well, the reps of the fourth ward will know that because they're all
Yeah, exactly.
former students themselves.
Yeah, no, we just gave up. We decided it was not worth our time trying to crack it because
Well, yes, and if the representatives are, as you say, going to cover students, I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a way for them to gather students in central places to just, I don't know.
I think they're working on that and that they, and they do have their ways of organizing and communicating.
Right.
And because it's all students, the only reps can be students, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well,
So
except
they will have their
4-1 does go into College Town.
Yeah.
And there are year-round residents in College Town who have lived there for years. Some have served on Common Council or in the legislature. And 5-1 Cornell Heights is a lot of students, but there's a lot of, year-round residents there too.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
and
Because 5-1 encompasses one side of Lynn Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
College Town was represented by two non-students for a long time. Graham Kerlick, who did a bang-up job, in my opinion, even though he wasn't my rep, and Steve Smith, who also seemed very committed.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. I think students
Yeah.
are more active now, so we'll see.
Yeah, the shape is a little bit different. The fourth ward's shape is a little different than it was then too.
Right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the eastern part of the fourth ward is, the eastern border is pretty much the same outside of that 4-3. The western side comes all the way up to, North Quarry Street. It used to, be down at Parker Street.
Well, I'm noticing because like I'm former fourth ward, right? Now I'm put into second. And voter turnout was never good in fourth ward. And many of those who did turn out lived in the section of fourth ward that has been moved into the second ward now. And that is Buffalo Street, Seneca Street, the little side streets between them over to State. So that's now second ward. And that was a lot of the more consistent long-term voters.
It's a good
for
point.
fourth ward.
I just have a question a little bit about both understanding how to read the map and how to communicate to people in the city, like what your plan is. Because a lot of ward boundaries are really shifting, and I don't know how aware people are that that's actually going to happen. And there's a lot of impacts that will happen in terms of council elections and things like that. So I guess my question is, what are you guys doing in terms of kind of advertising these, just making people aware of it? And what can we do as a city committee to support that?
Well, once we get the new maps together, we certainly could do a press release on it. It's hard. I mean, we do send out a mail check card in April, which tells, we mail it to every voter in the county. It tells what each of their jurisdictions are, whether it's county ledge, common council, or a town, or whatever. So they'll get that. Looking at the map, I mean, looking at this map, the only way you can tell is that any one of those districts that starts with a 1 is in the first ward, and anyone that starts with a 2 is in the second. And then, of course, the city has a color-coded map. I mean, it might be good for the I don't know when you get when you get closer to we could put our heads together with the city, but there should probably be some publicizing that there are new ward lines when people are going to run for office. It creates a couple issues too. We have, I believe, in this new first ward, we have 4 sitting common council members. And
In the first ward?
in the first ward, you got George McGonigal and Cynthia Brock, and also you got Duxon Nguyen and
Oh, because they were and Phoebe?
yeah, Phoebe's in that little triangle there.
So we have 4 common council members in the first ward.
Current ones, yeah.
Well, then how about second ward? If there's 4 in the first ward, how many are in the second?
Well, I know right now, trying to think, who's the 5th ward to be used? There was escaping me now who the 5th ward. We only have 1 5th ward common council member at the moment.
Rob Catelmo is.
Rob will be in.
Yeah,
Rob will
and
be
he's in the new 5th ward. So the 4th, I don't think the 2nd ward. Let me see, College Town. I don't know where George Street, Defendini and Tiffany.
Oh, yeah,
They
Defendini.
might be in the new 2nd ward. I don't know. Do you know where they live, Gwen?
Hi. So George moved. So I don't know. And I don't know where Tiffany is. So this is a very interesting question. Yeah. So we'll have to just discuss this map and find out what's going on.
And I think the new 3rd
What I
ward.
think would be super helpful, a couple things, just because I'm a lay person looking at this map. And I understand these are like census tracts. And if you're not used to that. It's kind of like, it took me a while to orient myself when I
Mhm.
first looked at this, to even figure out where my street was and to understand that just how it was put together. So I think one thing would be helpful would be to have a few more street names so people could get their bearings, and then where the boundary cuts on a street, like I understand Lynn Street, it divides Lynn Street. Like,
Yeah.
I think that'd be really important to point out, because from my perspective, I wouldn't really know that looking at this.
Right.
And I also think would be super helpful would be to, if there was any way to do an overlay, like a little feature where you could say, this is your former ward, and this is how the ward has changed. And it also sounds like you're eventually going to be loading everybody into the ward. So maybe making people aware that they can just go and check to see where they landed.
Right,
So-
yeah, once we're completed, yeah. When the map that the county is going to prepare for us is going to look very similar to the map we used, I think Ted, you might even have a copy of it, the existing map, and that has a little bit more detail than this, I believe, on street
Mm.
names.
That's good.
But Ted, do you have the map? Yeah, this is kind of the map that we will present you, except that it won't have the election district lines that are on here. It'll have the new election district lines.
Mhm.
And so you'll be able to, and this has a lot of street names, so you can hopefully orient yourself better. And that will be available as soon as we get it. Probably even before we load in all the new load in all the voters into their correct place, in our database. But we'll have a maps very similar to this on our website, which will reflect the new election districts.
And
I would suggest that rather than have this complicated scheme of differently colored lines, some of which overlap, that you make use of shading to indicate some qualities. This map is it's a map lover's delight, but it is a little hard to read.
Mhm.
Shading the wards, not the LDs, right?
Well, shading something.
Yeah, shading, I agree with Ted, shading something. And this could be something we can put up on our website. We can maybe set up a special drop-down screen with information. Steve, I'm
Hey,
wondering too about being able to look at the Ithaca Voice and the Ithaca Times and being able to get not just a press release out, but an interview, and being able to have this kind of map or whatever else we can do to get it out there in the community.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can, do that through the BOE. But I'd like to see something out there more like an interview with these kinds of embedded, a map in there that's readable for people, and how they can call the BOE if they have questions, that type.
Yeah, I think we can do a lot of that. The other thing I was thinking too is maybe it would be helpful too is if we just had maps of each individual ward.
That's
That would be great
not a
too.
bad idea.
Steve, that's what that's the number one thing I was going to ask, because we've got a new ward, and when we start publicizing it, getting people to run for city council and publicizing this, at this moment, I don't care what's happening in 2 or 1 or 3. I'm concerned, and I probably John is too, what's going to be happening in the new 3 and getting people. So that would be so helpful, and we have listservs, and it would be great. Then I could just send it out to everybody and say, this is our new ward.
Mhm.
Do you live here? This is where you're going to have to petition.
Mhm.
So thank you. I'm so glad that came up, Steve. That was a great idea. You anticipated the need.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
and if the individual ward maps aren't completely individual, in other words, if you're looking at a particular ward, but you can see where the boundaries of the other wards connect to it.
Right, but it's more like if someone is going to petition, they're gonna want a ward map, not a map of the whole
Exactly,
city.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
We'll get a list, but it'll also have a map to help them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Could I ask you, what are the deadlines, say, like for somebody running for council? And the reason I ask that is that if Ward 2 currently will have no incumbent council people, it's going to be really important to make sure that people know that they should run, like, and what the deadlines are. So I'm curious when the petition deadline is for them, and how long will we have a usable map, between like, this is the firmed up map and that's easy to read, that people know, and the time that someone would want to throw their hat in the ring, if that makes any sense.
Well, with regards to a map, the only map that you'll have available, I think, is the one that the Common Council passed, the shaded one that has different colors, which I think Ted had up earlier. That map is available now. That shows the ward boundaries that new members of Common Council people that are running for election, they will have to live in those wards. You
Yeah.
have a color coding at the lower end there. It tells you which ward is which. And that's a good point, because the new Ward 2 is completely different than the old Ward 2. And, it's probably, it's pieces of Ward 4 and pieces of Ward 2 and pieces of Ward 5. And I think most of the people that live in Fall Creek will naturally think they live in Ward 5 when they actually will live in Ward 2. Oh, yeah, I think, so that map is ready now. You can certainly refer to that. I'm not sure when our map will be ready. I gave them a deadline of February 1st. I'm hoping it's before then.
Mhm.
The timeline for petitions, first day to circulate designating petitions will be February 28th. And the
Mhm.
filing dates for designating petitions will be August 3rd or April 3rd through 6th.
Can you repeat that?
February 28th, first day to circulate. Filing dates are April 3 through 6.
And when does the petitioning period end?
Well, the 6th of April,
6th of April.
So you can petition through the 6th of April.
yes.
Thank you.
And the signature requirements, we won't have those ready until around the 21st of February.
Thank you.
We will certainly have real rough numbers that'll be fairly close as soon as we get all of the voters moved into their correct election districts. We'll have some pretty accurate numbers.
Steve, to support this effort from the TCDC, I had an earlier meeting with the officers. We are putting together content of what needs to be provided as we're looking at petitions, that type of thing, and the required signatures and other information, scripts we can put together. So the dates here and how they return, where those petitions are returned to, is it to the candidates, or, is it going to come directly back to the wards, as an example, and making sure we process these accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll be seeking you out.
You know where to find me.
And this task of getting everyone in the databases situated in their correct election district and ward. And so that sounds like an awful lot of work. Who's responsible for that?
Board of Elections. Yes, we are. And it's not made any easier that we really can't do much transferring of the people in the new third ward until after the special election.
Yeah.
Is your new software package, shall we say, neutral on this, or does it help it, or does it make it harder?
Well, I wouldn't say we have there's some changes to the software package, but yeah, it's probably, I don't know. We'll see what, we had a meeting yesterday. It sounds like it'll be neutral, but I hope it's at least neutral.
Does it provide any tools to help you out?
According to the county, yes, they say that, but we'll see if they actually play out. We're also looking probably, at some point, be looking at another vendor for our voter registration database, but we'll see.
Oh, really?
That's another story. Yeah, I know Ted's like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, it's I mean, when we get into it, I mean, like Ward 1, District 1 is great. That'll be easy because nothing has changed. It's still 1-1, still votes at Lehman. It's the same boundaries, So, I mean, some will be easy. Ward 4, District 3 will be real easy. There's nobody there.
Yeah, right.
But some of the others will, those runs right there in the second ward there, I think it'll be more complicated. But we'll get there.
Good. Thank you, Steve. That's it just boggles the mind to think of the work that's got to go into this, but and what's gone into it already. And then you've got judges camping out there somewhere that people's gonna get them to rule on whether they think it's okay.
I think the redistricting certainly is past muster.
It is okay.
We're not like I think it's Ulster County. They had to go back to the drawing board because they changed the deviation that you could have between populations and districts from the last redistricting to this one from 10% to 5%, and Ulster went by 10%, and somebody challenged them and threw it out, told them back to the drawing board. I think we're fine there.
Yeah, actually, that was a question that occurred to me. When you said districts just now about population deviation, you're not talking about election districts. You're talking
No, not wards, not county ledge districts. Districts for people that make laws and
okay, county legislature and common council
wards.
districts.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So forgive me, I should know this, but so the county, those of us on ward committees will be petitioning for our seats in the next round of petitioning in February, right?
Right, for the new ward lines and new ED lines, yeah.
We all have to petition again, right? And are we
County committee slots in for, yeah.
like, have we thought about how we're gonna, I'm just thinking of like the current 5th ward and the current 2nd ward gets super messy, right? Like I'm no longer in the 5th ward. I mean, I am in the 5th ward now, the new 5th ward. But most of my current committee will be in the 2nd ward. And I'm just wondering, and this is maybe for like Ed and Anne and, like, how are the city committee going to help all the wards sort this out? Like where people should petition and how we're going to, it's almost like we should, organize as a city committee this time instead of individual ward committees, because it's going to be so confusing.
Well, I would think that in early February, you probably, hopefully we'll have allocations for election districts then, and then the city committee probably ought to meet and discuss what makes sense here, because you're going to have to collaborate,
Exactly.
with using existing leaders and committee people and trying to get it so that they're not petitioning against each other unnecessarily and that kind of stuff. It'll take some collaboration to be sure. But
I mean, I'm used to being in the 4th ward. Now I'm in 2nd, and I need to meet with the 2nd ward people and make a plan.
The 2nd ward is very crowded now. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it would
I
probably
think it's a
be
great idea, though, to think about it as a kind of collaborative do it at the city level, because it is, otherwise it's really confusing.
Right.
So that way we could be more coordinated.
It would
And I mean,
probably be
it sounds
helpful.
like the fourth ward will need help rebuilding, sort of, right? That ward is really going to be tricky.
Well, here's the
It'd probably
question.
be
whether
helpful
George
to
and
have,
Tiffany are-
to make up a list of all current members showing what ward you're in now and what ward in the new plan.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I
Mhm.
think
That's a
so.
good idea.
Also, Ann and I had talked about that in a way collectively coming up with a plan and what you need to do. What is that collaboration need to look like? So it's effective across all of the 5 wards in the new 5 wards.
I really
Before-
like Ted's idea of starting with expanding our current spreadsheet would be a great idea.
Okay.
But before we do that, we need to know how many members we can have in each new
Mhm.
district in each ward. So we
Yeah.
can't do that until.
We can't. I mean,
Well,
we
you
can
could-
start at least mapping out where people are and where they'll be and
Yeah.
then see how
I
much room
cannot-
we have.
I cannot tell you, I mean, I must confess, I felt really good about it, but John and I working on filling, Henry's seat came at a bad time. It was really hard, but we have been collaborating in our new ward. And so it turned out, that was a very silver lining.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Just take your sheet now and you see the new lines. You could at least put what election district each person will be living in. Yeah.
And
And
then,
And it might well turn out that from the county committee membership point of view, you don't have to do too many changes.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that while it's nice to have people living in the ward they represent, you don't have to.
Mhm.
Sorry, living in the district they represent.
Yes. Right.
Just one more thing. I think there's really, really helpful. And one of the ways I think it's been really helpful is kind of laying out the complexity of it. So what I'm curious about is what there are a lot of really good ideas that got put out there. So what people just generally think is the best next first step for the city committee to work on or for the wards? Is it the list? I mean, I'm thinking maybe the place to start is with that list of like where the members of the wards are today and where the members of the ward will be next time in terms of Democratic wards. Does that make sense? Anyway, so yeah, so what would be the first next best step?
I think that's a good one. Which election districts each committee member will be living in. Also, maybe plotting out which election districts or which wards each of the current common council members will be living in.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've messaged
So they know.
George and Tiffany. Let's see if they get back to me and I can tell you more
Yeah.
about Ward 4.
Okay.
I assume,
They're
I'm not going
they're
to,
in common council right now.
Yeah,
Tiffany was just sworn in tonight.
Yeah.
But I
I'm just
think
kind of
if you
assuming
moved
that
on-
common council members know what they did to themselves.
You would think so.
I hope so. Watching the PBS NewsHour earlier and what's going on with the House of Representatives, you only can be thankful you're not part of that mess.
John Jackson, I put a message into the chat. I think we touched on it before, but he was wondering how will those 4 common council members in the first ward sort out what's what?
Well, they either sort it out amongst themselves or they sort it out in a primary.
Yeah.
They're still all wanting to serve.
Maybe some of them can
Primaries,
move.
elections are good. Primaries are good.
Yeah,
I like
Mhm.
primaries. You're gonna have to work for it.
Well, having had quite a few years and some experience in the second ward, and now having moved first to what was supposed to be maybe near the border of the first ward, and now deep within it, as far as I can tell. So I think a lot of the second ward people, I'm just talking about second ward residents who, and Democrats are particularly attuned to Duxon and Phoebe now. But they're no longer even living in the second ward. So,
It's done. It's done.
so there's lots of opportunity there for some people in the second ward to make a run for county council. Trying to think of anybody I know that might. Anyway,
Well, the second ward, I believe, aren't there people seeking the common council seat that Laura Lewis no longer holds?
no,
Well, probably most of those live in the second ward, whether they're all Democrats, I don't know.
Laura didn't live in the second ward, did she?
She lives in the
Well-
what would be the new second ward.
The new second ward, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and as of this media advisory, this is embargoed until next week, but Robert Contelmo is going to be running for mayor.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just learned
That's
that
like-
tonight. I learned
that's
that
like-
tonight from my daughter. who lives on Lynn Street, and somehow, well, she's pretty well connected around town, but
Well, you should have all received an invite to his launch on Sunday at the watershed downstairs, at 3 p.m.
I
If
did.
not, you're all
I
invited.
did receive that, but there was no real agenda or subject about it
Yeah.
that
I
I had seen.
I mean, it's horrible because it's such a violent sport, but I was talking to my sister in New Hampshire, who's a Patriots fan. And I said, hey, Kathy, they're going to do a mayor announcement Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she said, oh my God, don't they know? I guess not. Not at upstate. One of the biggest football games.
Well, I
And I
think,
keep there.
well, I think,
Just don't they know?
Now, the
Not
biggest
everyone
football game
watches
was the
football.
Jets versus Baltimore Colts way back in the 60s.
I know, I know. It's like in New Hampshire, they never did petitioning when the Patriots were playing.
yeah, but I did have a brief discussion with my daughter. She was waiting with me in the doctor's office this afternoon about where, if you've got Laura Lewis and Rob Cantelmo running in the primary, I mean, how do you figure that one out?
Citizens will figure it out, but we
Well,
don't
the
even know if
citizens
she's
will,
running.
but for me, it's kind of it's hard to say who you really want to support.
You'll figure it out.
A lot of different things. Yeah. No, it'll figure itself out eventually, but anyway. Well, do we, I'm assuming Ann got some good notes out of this.
Sort of, but I'm thinking that the recording is even better.
Right.
And did you feel you were asking about the first step, it's putting, the plan together. Do you want more content for that, or do
Yeah.
you want that?
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm thinking, boy, I mean, I'm happy to work on it, but I don't know if I necessarily have the expertise, and I would want some help.
Well, yes, and we should work together on this. And the
And do you have access to the spreadsheet that exists with all the members? That'd be-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do have that from earlier this year
Yeah.
that Ted that you
Hasn't-
gave me when we were setting up that meeting.
It hasn't changed too much.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, yeah. I think what needs to be done, maybe it becomes more clear once one sets out to try to do it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, if we could just get together and just focus on
Mhm.
those issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just one question, this is just on that. I don't remember from that list, Ted, that you gave me, the addresses of people are on that list?
They should be,
Okay,
Mhm.
in fact, okay.
Well, there was a list that Ted did and a list that Diane did.
yeah, but I think it was Ted's list, right?
Was
It was-
Ted's list, because Diane's list didn't have addresses on, or it was
No.
missing something. I can't remember what it was.
Hers was a Word document where
Yes, It
Ted's
wasn't a spreadsheet.
yes format. And we've been talking earlier today, Diane, and then also Ted, being able to indicate each ward, each town, each election district, how many members are there.
Yes.
But remembering that we're looking at amending that bylaw, and so that would also change to accommodate that
Yeah,
new
so-
potential new
Right.
numbers.
And we're talking about sometime in the fairly near future, having another city committee meeting with Diane and Lori to talk about the treasury and some other bylaws issues that have come up, clarifications of the relationship between the city committee and the county committee and
Right.
all those things. So we'll have another meeting and hopefully I can get my act together and not have it be the last minute pop-up. But I think there's nothing to do but look to the future and buckle down.
We can do it.
We can do it.
Anyway,
Awesome.
I think I'll invite some of the city councilors in the fourth ward, ask them if they want to move to mine.
That's generous of you.
Start moving the people around.
Yeah, start moving the people around.
Yeah. Okay, any more? I mean, we've had enough questions here to swamp Jeopardy, but if we don't have any more, maybe we want to just think about this and go forward and think about what our next city committee meeting is going to be like. Anyone have anything else to add? And thank you so much, Steve, for your time tonight. This is really
No
helpful.
problem. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And Ted, there'll be a recording, and is there a transcript too?
Unfortunately, no transcript.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to really get detailed notes out of this, they got to watch the whole thing again. But I didn't feel just hard if you don't have anybody that's all they're doing is taking notes, and that wasn't possible here tonight. So, well, we'll get out of it what we can and move on to next steps. And so we'll stay in touch. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will just call this meeting to a close and adjournment without going through a whole lot of rigmarole. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.